When you strip away the noise, the expectations, the pressure to impress, there's something very real that starts to show up. And it usually shows up in the quiet moments when no one is watching. The first question to ask yourself is, what do I truly enjoy doing when nobody is around to validate me for it? Not what sounds impressive, not what looks good online, not what makes people clap. I'm talking about the thing you gravitate toward naturally without thinking, without forcing it. Because that thing, that's a clue, a signal. It's the part of you that isn't trying to be liked. It's just being honest. Most of us spend a lot of time performing. We act like we enjoy certain things because they get us approval, compliments, likes, or because they fit the version of ourselves we think we're supposed to be. And after a while, we lose track of what we honestly like. It gets buried under layers of identity that don't belong to us. School told you what success is. Family told you what stability is. Society told you what you should want. And eventually, you start to mistake all that noise for your own voice. So when I ask you what you enjoy doing when no one is around, it's not a small question. It's a reset. It's a return to your baseline before the world started editing you. Think about the things you used to do as a kid. Back then, you weren't trying to create a brand or impress anyone. You did things because they felt good. Maybe you drew pictures for hours. Maybe you tore apart electronics to see how they worked. Maybe you were the kid telling stories, putting on shows, explaining things, leading, organizing. Those were early signals of who you are. And yeah, life got more complicated. Responsibilities showed up, but those signals didn't disappear. They just got quieter. And part of figuring out what you really want is learning how to hear them again. Now, this doesn't mean your passion has to be some big dramatic fireworks in the sky thing. A lot of people think passion is supposed to feel like lightning. No. Sometimes it's a small pull, a curiosity, something you could do for 30 minutes and lose track of time. Something that feels right, something that brings you peace or sparks your mind. It could be teaching, it could be building, it could be designing, it could be solving problems, it could be helping. Don't chase someone else's passion definition, pay attention to your own. And I want to say this clearly, if you feel like you don't know what you enjoy anymore, that doesn't mean you're lost. It means you've been surviving. And that's not a failure. It's just a season. But now you get to reconnect. Start small. Pay attention to what feels natural to you. Notice what you do when you're avoiding stress. Notice what you choose when no one is grading you. Notice the things you daydream about. Notice the things that feel like oxygen. Whatever you enjoy when no one is watching, that's the closest thing to your real self. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. It just needs to be true. And once you find what's true, you can build from there. Not a life based on expectations, not a life based on pressure, a life based on alignment. And alignment is where peace lives. What problem do you want to wake up and solve every day? That's the second question. And it matters more than what goal you think you want. Because people love the idea of the result. They love the idea of being successful, being admired, being financially free, being respected. But very few people think about the process behind those results. Every dream has work attached to it. Every dream has uncomfortable days, difficult decisions, long nights, and moments where you question if you're good enough. So the real question isn't, what do I want? It's, what am I willing to do consistently? What am I willing to show up for even when I'm tired, uncertain, or not being applauded? See, the things you truly care about are the things you'll show up for without needing to be pushed. The things that feel meaningful even on the boring days, the things that feel right even when progress is slow. You can admire the idea of being a doctor, a musician, an entrepreneur, a leader, but the day-to-day looks very different from the highlight version. A musician spends more hours practicing alone than performing in front of anyone. A doctor studies, sacrifices, sleep, carries emotional weight. A business owner deals with problems, setbacks, plans that don't work out the first 10 times. A leader is responsible for people who don't always agree, support, or understand them. The result may look inspiring, but the process is where the truth is. So the question becomes, what kind of struggle feels meaningful to you? Not enjoyable necessarily, but meaningful because you don't have to enjoy every step to know you're on the right path. You just have to feel connected to the outcome. You have to feel like the work matters. Think about what frustrates you in the world, in your environment, in your community. Think about the problems that bother you enough that you start forming solutions in your head. Some people can't stand seeing people confused. They naturally want to teach. Some can't stand seeing things disorganized. They want to create systems. Some can't stand when people feel alone. They want to connect or support. Some can't stand wasted potential. They want to motivate, guide, or build opportunities. The problems that bother you aren't accidents. They're indicators. They're pointing toward your lane. And here's something important. You don't have to know the whole answer right now. You don't need to have a perfect 5-year plan. You just need to notice what sparks your mind, what grabs your attention, what challenges you in a way that feels almost personal. Because when something feels personal, it means it connects to who you are. A lot of people say they're confused about their purpose, but really, they just haven't slowed down enough to observe their reactions. Your interests speak, your frustrations speak, your patterns speak, but we live in a world that keeps you busy enough not to hear them. So this question, what problem do you want to wake up and solve, requires stillness, honesty, reflection that's not rushed. You don't need to choose something massive. It's not about saving the world. It's about contributing to something that matters to you. Purpose isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and consistent. The kind of thing that builds you rather than drains you. The kind of thing that makes you feel like you're moving toward yourself, not away from yourself. The right problem will challenge you, stretch you, and sometimes frustrate you, but it will also grow you. It will make you stronger instead of smaller. And when you find that kind of problem, it stops feeling like something you have to do. It becomes something you carry with a sense of responsibility and meaning. And that right there is where real direction begins. What am I willing to struggle for? That's the third question. And it's not a dramatic question, it's a truth-telling one. Because everything you want in life has a cost. Not just money, time, patience, repetition, rejection, uncertainty, discipline. You can want the reward, but if you're not willing to carry the weight that comes with it, it will never be yours in a real way. So instead of asking, what do I want? Ask, what am I willing to go through to get it? Most people want the highlight version of success. They want the picture, the moment, the applause, the evidence. They want the outcome without the road that leads to it. But the road is where you become the person who is actually able to hold the outcome. The road is where you learn the skills, the patience, the humility, the clarity. The road is where you grow the shoulders to carry what you say you want. And nobody escapes that part. Not the people you admire, not the people ahead of you, not the people who look like they got there easily. They struggled too. They just didn't quit during the struggle. Ask yourself, what discomfort do you feel willing to live with? Because every path has its own version of stress. You don't get to avoid struggle. You only get to choose your struggle. If you want to be fit, your struggle is showing up in the gym when your bed is warm and your motivation isn't there. If you want meaningful relationships, your struggle is vulnerability, communication, patience through misunderstandings. If you want a career that inspires you, your struggle is learning, failing, revising, trying again, not seeing validation immediately. The difference between something you think you want and something you truly want is what you'll endure for it. You might think You want to be a content creator, but are you willing to put out work when nobody is watching? You might think you want to run a business, but are you willing to stay consistent when the results are slow and uncertain? You might think you want to be great at something, but are you willing to be bad at it first? Because every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once inexperienced. Every confident person was once unsure. This is where most people disconnect. They think discomfort means wrong direction. They think difficulty means failure. But discomfort is actually a sign of growth. It means you're stepping beyond where you've been. It means you're stretching into someone you haven't fully become yet. Growth has always required friction. You don't get strength without resistance. You don't get clarity without confusion. You don't get direction without wandering. It's not failure. It's part of the process. But don't force yourself into struggles that don't feel meaningful. If the struggle drains you and leaves you empty, it's probably not aligned with what you want. But if the struggle feels like something you can carry, even when it's heavy, even when progress is slow, that's yours. That's the thing that matters to you. That's where your desire actually lives. The truth is, you don't build a life by chasing what feels good. You build it by following what feels meaningful. Meaning is deeper than excitement. Meaning lasts. Meaning gives you something to hold on to when it's difficult. Meaning gives you patience. Meaning gives you direction. So ask yourself honestly, not the polished answer, not the socially acceptable one. What am I willing to try for, fail at, get back up, and try again? Because that's the thing you actually want. That's the thing that belongs to you, and that's the thing you should build your life around. What would I choose if I wasn't afraid of failing or being judged? That's a question that hits a different level. Because a lot of the time, we do know what we want, we just talk ourselves out of it. We bury it under doubt, worry, and the fear of what other people might think. And it's not that the dream is unrealistic or too big, it's that the fear feels bigger than the desire. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of looking inexperienced. Fear of not being taken seriously. Fear of trying and it not working out. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't mean the dream is wrong. Fear usually means the dream is real. Most people are not living their life. They are living a performance of their life. They make decisions based on how they want to be perceived instead of how they want to feel. They choose careers, relationships, priorities, and paths that look stable or impressive from the outside, but internally they feel disconnected. And maybe nobody else notices, but you notice. You feel the emptiness, the restlessness, that quiet voice that says, this isn't actually me. That voice doesn't go away. It waits, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. So when you ask, what would I choose if I wasn't afraid? You're not just asking what you want. You're asking who you are without pressure, without comparison, without expectation, without needing approval. It's one of the most honest questions you will ever ask yourself. Think about this. Fear is loud at the beginning. It shouts. It warns. It tries to protect you from embarrassment or disappointment. But fear doesn't know the difference between danger and growth. It just reacts to anything unfamiliar, which means the life you want is probably on the other side of something that scares you, not because it's unsafe, but because it's new. And here's something important. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing anyway. Nobody wakes up fearless. Nobody tries something meaningful and feels confident the entire time. Confidence doesn't come first. Action comes first. Confidence is built through doing, through stumbling, through learning, through seeing yourself survive things you were scared of. Confidence is just the memory of past bravery. Ask yourself, if no one could laugh, if no one could doubt you, if nobody got to vote on your path, what would you choose? What would you start? What would you leave? Who would you become? Those answers are powerful. They are your direction. But most people never let themselves speak them out loud, because the moment they do, they feel responsible for them. And that can be intimidating. The fear of judgment is one of the strongest forces shaping people's lives. But here's the secret. People are not paying as much attention to you as you think. Everyone is busy thinking about themselves, their own worries, their own image. The judgment you fear is mostly imagined. And even when someone does judge you, it has no power unless you agree with them. The real battle is between who you are and who you pretend to be. You don't need to take a dramatic leap. You don't need to announce your dream to the world. Just start moving in the direction of the thing you would choose if fear wasn't in the way. Small steps count. Quiet steps count. Choosing yourself in private counts. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be honest. Because if you silence your own desire long enough, you don't avoid regret, you create it. And regret is heavier than fear. Fear asks you to try. Regret asks you to wonder what might have been. So choose the path that scares you a little, not because it's risky, but because it's real. If my life stayed exactly the same for the next 5 years, would I be proud or would I feel regret? That question requires honesty, the kind of honesty that's uncomfortable because it forces you to stop looking at your intentions and start looking at your reality, not what you plan to do, not what you say you'll change, not the version of you that exists in your imagination, the version of you that exists right now, today, this week, this month. The habits you keep, the choices you repeat, the direction your life is actually moving in. Most people don't realize how much time passes while they're saying, soon I'll work on myself. Soon I'll start that project. Soon I'll make that change. Soon I'll leave what's draining me. Soon I'll try. Soon feels safe because it lets you hold the idea of your dream without the discomfort of pursuing it. But 5 years go by quickly, and soon becomes someday, and someday becomes never. That's how regret builds quietly, slowly, and always in the background. Look at your life the way it is right now. Not in a judgmental way, not in a harsh way, just in a real way. Are your days aligned with what you care about? Are your routines pushing you toward growth, or are you repeating patterns because they're familiar? Comfort can be sneaky. It feels safe, but it can also trap you. And before you know it, you're living the same year again and again, calling it a life. There's nothing wrong with consistency, but there's a difference between stability and stagnation. Stability supports you. Stagnation suffocates you. One gives you room to breathe. The other slowly takes it away. You can feel the difference. One feels steady. The other feels stuck. Ask yourself, who would you be in 5 years if you did nothing differently? If your habits stay the same, your environment stays the same, your effort stays the same, where does that lead? Be honest. If that path makes you feel proud, grounded, and fulfilled, then you're already aligned. Keep walking. But if the thought of 5 more years like this feels heavy, frustrating, or uncomfortable, that's your signal. That's your wake-up call. Your future doesn't change from one big moment. It changes from small decisions, repeated over time. The decision to choose yourself, the decision to show up, the decision to let go of what's holding you back, the decision to stop waiting for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There's only now. And this isn't about rushing. It's not about burning everything down or making impulsive moves. It's about direction. A 1-degree shift today becomes a completely different place 5 years from now. A small step forward every day compounds. A tiny act of courage repeated becomes identity. Change isn't built in a dramatic leap. It's built in consistent movement. Think of your future self, not the fantasy version, the real one, the one living with the consequences of your choices. Will they thank you, or will they wish you had started sooner? When you picture that version of yourself, something becomes very clear. Regret doesn't come from failing, it comes from not trying. Failure teaches. Trying builds strength. Effort creates growth. Regret only remembers what was left undone. If the life you're living now isn't aligned with the life you want, You don't need to fix everything today. You just need to choose differently today. Choose the habit that moves you forward. Choose the environment that supports you. Choose the action that reflects who you want to become. Because 5 years will pass either way. The question is not, will time move? The question is, who will you be when it does?